Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I haven't been on the podcast for a while, but we are in Tarai in the mountains in Peru, and I'm here with Jay. So, welcome to the podcast, Jay.
Thank you, Brittany. Happy to be here.
So happy to have you. He's currently living with Ivan and Lou, who have also been on the podcast a while ago. If you want to check that one out, they're also really fucking cool. I'd love to talk to you about how you got here and why you're living in Peru with those two weirdos.
Yeah.
Awesome guys. So yeah, how did your journey lead you to the mountains of Peru?
Yeah, so I came down to Peru the first time in January. I had kind of been, dealing with primarily like anxiety, and I think maybe a little bit of a problematic relationship with, stimulants like Adderall, nicotine, coffee, caffeine. And so, yeah, I was just getting to a point where I didn't like the kind of trend, like of where my life and sort of my mental health was going. And I had a little experience with plant medicine. Like I had kind of taken mushrooms, like many of us, like kind of recreationally back in the States, and had some really beautiful days with it. And so that kind of opened me up to the world of, ayahuasca and things down here. And then I had a therapist back in the States who is really involved in kind of the plant medicine community in America, and has also spent some time down in Peru. So I think just through working with him for a few years, like I kind of got more and more like interested or comfortable with the idea of coming down here and trying ayahuasca. And so yeah, so I quit my job in December, came down here in January for a 3-week retreat at Niue Rao, which is in Iquitos, and it was a really great center. But I just really struggled with ayahuasca. Like the first night was just gnarly. Like I think I like passed out, like woke up in the bathroom, like yeah, it purged everywhere. Like it was really gnarly. And I think I had several nights, not quite that extreme, but like really just like uncomfortable and confusing. And like, I don't know, I think people talk about ayahuasca like it's just this miracle thing, which in many ways it is, but I was not getting that. Like I was just having confusing, scary, uncomfortable nights like over and over. So I was supposed to stay for 3 weeks. I ended up staying for 2, leaving early, and then leaving the jungle and coming up to the mountains. Like I didn't really have any plans. I was like, I guess I'm not going to heal myself, but at least I'll travel, or something, meet some people. And so I went to Cusco and kind of like messed around there for a week or so. And then my therapist had given me a list of places to check out in Peru. Like he gave me the recommendation of Niue Rao and like just other like kind of touristy spots, restaurants. And he also had this place called Casa de la Gringa, which is like a San Pedro retreat in Cusco. And so, yeah, one day I was just like, yeah, fuck it. I'll go try that out, see what's going on there. And I get there and it's just me. And yeah, so I kind of go into ceremony with Lou, who's apprenticing there at the time. And we had a private ceremony, just the two of us. And I feel like all this kind of frustration had built up as a result of like not getting what I thought I was supposed to get out of ayahuasca. And I was like really beating myself up over it. And I think, that all kind of came out with San Pedro because I had someone to talk to. Like what was different with that was like I could speak to Lou, I could talk to him, I could talk through what I was going through. Whereas in the jungle, it was just, mostly just getting some Icaros, at you, which for me, I didn't really quite understand. And so being able to like be verbal with Lou, like was able to, help me kind of process through a lot of stuff. Yeah. And I just really liked him. I thought he was funny. I thought it was, nice that he spoke English and like we joked around, we swore. Like I was like, this is very like, just more my speed than being in the jungle. And yeah, so I ended up staying for maybe two more ceremonies with him, and just yeah, other people came in for those ones. But yeah, I just really liked him and really knew he could help me. And so when I left Peru for the first time at the end of January, I ended up like on the flight home, kind of just had a sense I was supposed to go back, and ended up texting Lou like, hey, would you be willing to do like more long-term work with me with San Pedro? And turns out like his apprenticeship at the Casa had just been ending, like literally the same week that I asked him. And then he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so I guess the original plan was like, yeah, we're going to work together with San Pedro for 3 months, you'll come meet me for ceremony every couple, like twice a week. But then it kind of evolved into we'll live together, and then Ivan came in, and it's just been like really amazing how things have come together because, like I get along obviously with Lou, but so well with Ivan too. He's been a great friend to get to know. Like I've learned so much from him, and just the whole group. Like I think, yeah, I'm just glad I made the leap and kind of came down here because it's worked out better than I could have imagined. Both from like a plant medicine perspective, but also just like from a social perspective. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And just to clarify too, like I think I love hearing your side of the story about ayahuasca because of course on this podcast I talk a lot about ayahuasca and I'm biased because I love ayahuasca. But it is like it's important and good to mention that it's not for everybody. Not everybody connects with it the same way. And also each retreat center is not the same. So like, and not to say anything bad about that retreat center, but in our retreats, like it's a really important part of our work as facilitators to help talk people through stuff during ceremony, outside of ceremony, all that stuff. And not all retreat centers feel that way, and that's okay. Like some places are like, that's what the medicine, ayahuasca, the medicine is you're on your mat in the dark, no talking, figure your own shit out. And that really works for some people. Other people, not at all. So it was good that you like had that experience and realized that that wasn't working for you. And then found something else that is. And also for, if people don't know what we're talking about with Wachuma or San Pedro, also known as Wachuma, the cactus, I don't even know where it's originally from, but it's definitely really common in the Sacred Valley. Like a lot of people are doing Wachuma, San Pedro ceremonies here, and it grows here. I don't know if it grows naturally here.
I think it originates from like northern Peru and Ecuador, but it grows a lot down here too.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's a beautiful medicine. That's what Lou primarily works with. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you found that and you clicked with that. And it's so cool, the timing. I didn't realize that.
Like the same week. The same week. He's like, yeah, my friendship just ended. I was like, oh, perfect.
That's amazing.
Because I thought I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to go to the casa and like go there a couple weeks to see him, but he's like, no, I can be done. Like, yeah.
That was amazing.
We do our own thing. And now we've had people come to the house for ceremonies. Like he's definitely kind of getting his own space up and running, which is cool to be a part of.
That's so sweet. Yeah. And I remember hearing Lou talk about, this guy, because I hadn't met you yet, about this guy who wants to come and work with him for an extended period of time with Wachuma. And I was just thinking like, wow, this is going to be so interesting for that person.
Yeah.
So how are you, like, what were some of the things that you wanted to work on when you first started sitting with that? Or were they kind of the same things that you came to ayahuasca with?
Yeah, I think, a little bit of, kind of clarifying, the vision of what I want to do with my life, I think. But that's kind of what I came down with ayahuasca. And then I remember sitting with Lou and with San Pedro, and he was like, clarity is overrated, which I sort of understand now. And like, I've also been told by my therapist, who I kind of consider my other teacher, he's like, clarity comes from action, So, but at the same time, like, because I have been able to have so much space here just to like do not that much and just drink San Pedro, like, I think the clarity has come slowly. And it kind of because I stopped like looking for it so much. Because it's just, I think before I was doing stuff where like I read a lot of like mythology and I've read a lot of like, self-help type books. And I was always trying to like use those frameworks to decide how I should be living. I'm like, oh, if find myself within this like mythic story arc, this sign means this and this sign means this, it means I should do this. And I think what I've learned is like I can actually just feel what I want, which has been nice because before I was like trying to always like figure out what I wanted, but without being able to actually just feel for it, So that's kind of, I think, where the clarity has come from. I'm like, oh, I know like what I want. I just have to like, be honest about it.
That's huge. Because I think so many people, most of us are so disconnected from our bodies and our feelings that we're looking for the answers outside of ourselves. And that's why people come to plant medicines a lot of the times, is they're like, I want answers. I want clarity from something outside of me that knows better than me. Which it's like, sometimes that happens and we can get that. But I think for the most part, like what we're getting answers from is ourselves. Our higher selves, or whatever you want to call it. The plants can help open our doors, open our senses to that information that's already there. And like we were just talking about before we started recording, a lot of it is just cleaning off stuff. Cleaning off this like layering of filth
Yeah.
from whatever it is, like from actual chemicals in our food and the air, or just limiting beliefs or societal conditioning, like all this stuff that's preventing us from like actually tuning into our own bodies and seeing what it is that we actually want and need. So I think that's really cool that you're getting
simple,
that.
right? But like, so profound.
It is.
Because it's funny, like talking to friends now. I don't know what I want, and then you just like sit and like ask, like directly, like really envision it, like really try, like really think about like what has made you feel good in the past, like what do you daydream about, like the answers are there.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like maybe there's a few answers, and maybe you have to pick one and sequence them. So one has to come first because that's just the practical way to go about it. But like there's always something in terms of like a vision of the life you want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I've seen, a huge thing, I don't know if you've done this, but what a lot of people do is they'll say, like, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what I like. I have no idea what I want. But then what I realize, or what they realize over time, is that they do have an idea, but they've judged what they want as, like, not important enough, or not possible, not feasible. They're not worthy of it.
Yeah.
There's all these judgments around, well, I kind of do know what I want, but I'm scared to say it for these reasons. So what have you discovered it is that you do want? Or like what direction do you want to go in?
Yeah, it was interesting because sort of what I was talking about before, I was like kind of reading all these signs and thinking that, using that to determine what I thought I was supposed to do. And so I came down here and I was like, okay, I'm going to work with Lou for 3 months. And then, because I'm working with Lou, who's a really great Wachuma, that must mean that I'm supposed to be a Wachuma. And that I need to do an apprenticeship after this. And there's just like kind of this mental like or cognitive dissonance about it. Like it wasn't really clicking, but I was like, that seems to be what I'm here for, And I think as I've gone on, oddly enough, like, and Ivan would yell at me for like limiting myself in this way, but like just hear me out. There's a lot of people here, like in the group, that truly have kind of these like very mystical sort of shamanic abilities, and like I see it regularly. And I don't personally feel that way most of the time. Like I have intuition and can feel for things, and but I just don't feel like that's me that much. And I really enjoy like thinking about these things and speaking about them. And so I've kind of moved away in a sense from like needing to go down this kind of like plant medicine path, and I'm actually more interested in doing counseling, like doing therapy back, like getting a degree back in the U.S. Because it's just, and I'm not even always that interested in the mystical stuff. Like I'm not like I need to know about that. I need to be able to see that. I'm like, oh, well, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. Like, and I think it's just looking at how you're built and what you're drawn to, and like that's sort of where the answer lies in some way. And I'm like, well, I really like to talk about things. I really like to encourage people. I really like to listen and pay attention. And so I think that's just what I want to do. Like it's always been there, and I was like making it more complicated than it had to be. But that's just the facts. I like to speak to people and be encouraging and try to help them figure out what to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That totally checks out for me, and it doesn't mean there's anything worse or better than any other path. I feel like, again, that's where the judgment comes in of people in their own paths, or like comparing themselves to the people around them. But if we were all doing the same thing, that'd be A, really boring, and B, like not useful. If all of us could be like, if every human was amazing in the shamanic realm but couldn't intellectualize anything, like that wouldn't be that helpful. It would be cool, but we need a mix of all of these abilities. And I think for you, that just totally checks out and makes sense for me. I think you're going to be amazing at that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's and it's great to be part of the community too, like of the friends that we have here. Like I know that I have people to come to for stuff that I can't do myself,
Yeah.
And I know where to send people, maybe that I work with in the future for things that I can't help with, and that's fine. Yeah, it's really, I think that's been one of my favorite things. It's just like, I grew up running track, and I ran track in high school and college, and so I was on teams for like a decade or so. Meeting people here, like I feel like this is the first time I'm like, oh, I have like a team, like we're going to work on something together, and like I have a unique way of contributing. So that's like another thing I'm super excited about, because that wouldn't have happened like had I not come back the second time. If I didn't like commit to working with Lou long term, I I would have just followed you guys on Instagram and knew that you were their ayahuasca friends, and that would have been that, you know. Yeah.
I'm so happy you chose to do that and you stuck your neck out and you made the hard decision, even though it was like, you know, you had a lot of resistance to it, which most people do because it's a scary decision. But also, like, I just want to point this out. I think someone just said this on a recent retreat, but it's like sometimes your mind and your body / heart are like saying different things, and when we're so used to like only listening to our mind, I think a lot of the work with plant medicines is like dropping into your heart and your body. Like, for example, if your mind's like, okay, well, I came down here to work with Wachuma and with Lou, that must logically mean that I'm going to apprentice with Wachuma. But that just didn't feel right with you and your body. And a lot of times we try to force ourselves to do what we think is right, even though our bodies are like, that's, even though it's illogical, how about this other thing? And when you actually sit with that other thing, you're like,
you can like breathe. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. Yes.
Yes.
It's such a relief.
Yeah. And another thing I hear a lot, I don't know if Wachuma gets this as much as ayahuasca does, but like people will be like, I'm so scared to come down and do ayahuasca because I like my life. I don't want her to tell me that I need to get a divorce and I need to quit my job. And I'm like, that's not going to happen unless you're not happy with those things.
Right.
Like if you're deep down, if you're scared to drink ayahuasca because you're scared of like her telling you to get a divorce, but you really are so happy in your marriage, then that's like a silly fear because if you're really like settled in your marriage and happy about it, nothing can tell you otherwise. Ayahuasca or any plant, in my opinion, they're not going to tell you something that's just totally not resonant.
Totally.
And I think for me, what I've realized is, yes, it's important to listen to the messages from these things that are bigger than ourselves. But for me, I've never gotten a message that doesn't deeply resonate with me and what I want. So if ayahuasca was to come down and say, like, you need to, I don't know, work with Wachuma. And then I tried to work with Wachuma and I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I wouldn't do that. It doesn't matter what the plants told me. But because the plants have told me all these things, and I put that in air quotes because I don't want to actually know if it's the plants telling me or if it's my higher self, God himself, herself, whatever. Like, I don't know. But the important thing is that when I get a message, I feel it in my body as truth. Like, and that's the important thing is that it resonates with me. I'm like,
is it exciting or peaceful or what?
Both. I think usually it's a combination. Like, for example, the message for me that I got kind of recently to come back to Peru and start dieting more seriously and working with ayahuasca more seriously is a little bit scary. It's a little bit like, oof. But it's this feeling of like, I know that that's right. I just feel that that's true. And if I'm being honest with myself, I've felt that that's true for a while and just haven't wanted to look at that. That's the feeling I get a lot. Where I'm like, if I'm being really honest, that's been in the back of my head for a really long time, subconsciously. And when it finally is ready to come up to the surface, it's time for me to look at it. And it feels a combination of exhilarating and a little bit scary, but just also like this peace. That's like, I know that that's correct.
That reminds me of when I went home, I was thinking about doing, like after my first in January, I was thinking about going home and working for one of these wilderness therapy companies that basically takes troubled teens kind of out into nature and kind of like, I guess there's like, you know, counseling in addition to just like different activities to kind of help them work through whatever issues. So that was like my plan. And so, but I sort of had this thing with Lou in the back of my head. And so I had like Peru, and then there was one company in Utah, and then there's one company in Maine. And I was getting kind of scared again. And I was like, I need to do something practical. Like I need to make some money. So I was like, okay, Utah or Maine? And I was kind of like meditating on it, kind of praying on it. I was like, Utah or Maine, Utah or Maine. And then I just got Peru. I was like, fuck, are you serious? So yeah, it's just funny stuff like that.
Well, when that came in about Peru, what did you feel?
I was just like, God damn it. Like that's because it was already such a big like mental lift and like I had so much friction, you know, with coming down the first time. My own fear, like having to explain it to people. You know, so I was like, I have to do it again and for longer. Like it was just like, oh my God. But
did you also feel like a knowing though, like a truth?
Yeah, because I told Lou truly in like maybe our first, second or third ceremony when I was here the first time. I was just laying there on the Moloka floor at the casa, and I was like, "Hey, I think we're going to work together." And he was like, "Okay." Like I don't even know what I don't remember how he responded. I think he was like, "Sure, man. You know, like maybe someday." But like for me, it was very clear that I was supposed to work with him. You know, because he has people come through there all the time. You know. So it could just be another person saying shit. But yeah, like I knew then, and I knew when I was flying home, and it faded as I got more confused and muddled when I was back home, and other kind of forces started to come in. But yeah, like definitely knew that something I needed to do more here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for. I'm so proud of you for following that because so many people don't. But I think for me, the stronger the call, like the more hard it is to like resist it.
Yeah.
And I love one thing you said the other night when I was at your guys' place. Oh, there's a spider crawling up your leg. Really small one.
Oh,
I think you got it.
okay.
Let me check. Okay, you're good.
Yeah.
Sorry, spider. This is our second spider interruption on the podcast. Doug had one like descend
Oh boy.
almost on him.
Jungle spider, right?
Sorry, it's my thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But anyway, spider interruption aside. So yeah, I think a lot of people get little pings like that, but the stronger it is, the more it's like you're gonna suffer if you ignore it. And that's one thing you said to me that night of like accept or suffer.
Yeah.
And those are pretty much your choices. And yeah, and I thought of a third thing to add to that, which is like accept, leave, or suffer.
Yeah.
Because you can accept your current reality, you can leave your current reality, or you suffer.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are fine just like suffering in their own comfortability, if that makes sense. They're okay accepting their level of discomfort because that's what they're comfortable in, and they're choosing that discomfort over the unknown, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But for some of us, the level of discomfort is so high.
Yeah, it's so bad.
that you're just like, fuck it.
I know.
I'll try the unknown thing.
Yeah, and there's like a Terrence McKenna quote that I'm going to butcher, but that Ivan and I talk about a lot. It's kind of like the first phrase is like nature loves courage, and there's like when you think you're jumping into the abyss or something, it ends up being a bed of feathers, and that's like really how this has been.
I just got
it's like
goosebumps.
I'm going to Peru, like, but it's been so chill. Like it's like this scary thing to go work with plant medicine 3 months. Like holy shit, I'm not going to make any money, but then I just live with these amazing guys and have a beautiful house and like make all these friends. Like this complete feather bed.
I love that. I got goosebumps when you said that.
Yeah, he's a real one for sure.
He's a real one. He gets it.
Yeah.
And that's how I found in my life for it to really be. And it doesn't mean that there's no more trials and tribulations and you don't have to keep doing hard things, but it's just the feeling of like, I'm actually supported in this. It's not as scary as my mind was thinking. And I think I heard Peter Crone say a quote about like, we think we're afraid of the unknown, but we're not. We're actually afraid of like our worst fears coming true.
Yeah.
And so if you take it all the way out, you're like, well, what am I actually afraid about of Peru?
Yeah.
And for me, like what I've realized, especially, I don't know, I've had like a people pleasing problem my whole life.
Sure.
So what I realized for me is when I'm afraid of doing something, it's usually not even like when I really explore, why am I afraid of this? A lot of it is just what other people think or what they're going to say. And it was actually the fear of like what they're going to say influencing me and my beliefs. Because I can be like, I can feel in the past, it's like, okay, I feel pretty sure on this and that. And I feel this deep knowing. But then the moment someone I respect and love says like, that's bullshit. I can be swayed and I can be moved. And that scared me. Because I was like, I am not strong enough in my convictions right now to be like a pillar of strength and be like, no, I'm gonna do this and this is the right thing. Because anytime someone says to me like, are you sure? Because that sounds like you're insane and this is a horrible decision. I was so easily swayed back then. So I think that's another thing I've learned is just to like be okay with the fact that I'm gonna get a lot of negative pushback and just have to like be strong enough in my own convictions. And I've had to learn that one too.
Yeah. What were you afraid of people saying back then?
I think like that's a good point. I think for me, it's like when I started working with ayahuasca, I didn't want to be another white girl working with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to be like, oh God, another white girl who wants to be a shaman. Like I really didn't want that, and I still don't love that. I don't want to even be seen as that. Like I don't even want to put myself in that box because there are so many white people who are doing like 2 or 3 ceremonies and calling themselves a shaman and serving medicine.
A shaman workshop, like a weekend workshop.
A weekend workshop. Now you have a certificate from some
elite
fucking
shaman.
random dude.
You're an elite shaman in LA.
The badge. I have some camo marks to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just was so gross to me, and I didn't want people to view me like that because I didn't want to view myself like that. So I think that's actually one of the biggest barriers to why it took me so long to really commit myself to ayahuasca and plant diets because of that.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to be seen as that. I didn't want that to have that identity. I didn't think I didn't want people to think I was being disrespectful,
right,
or like appropriating cultures, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And now I'm just actually so sure, because of the way that my life has gone, I'm so sure that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, that nothing anybody can say anymore can deter me, which is a really solid and peaceful position to be in. But it's taken, what, 8 years?
8 years. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still wouldn't sit here and say, like, that's what I'm doing. I'm training to be a shaman, because I don't feel like I am. I mean, I'm training to be a better healer in many, many ways. Ayahuasca is one of them, but I think there's many facets to my medicine that I want to learn about, and don't even know about some of them yet. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that was the main one.
What do you think it is about ayahuasca that resonates with you, like compared to other medicines?
That's a great question. I had to face all of my worst fears with ayahuasca consistently, over and over again. And I love that about it. I love that it keeps pushing me to my edges, because our comfort zones, like, if you're only comfortable with a small amount of things, then your comfort zone is really small, which means, like, literally the zone of comfort that you're in at all times is so small that it can be, like, destroyed very easily. If you're like, I need all these things to be okay so that I'm comfortable, then you're fucking miserable in many situations. Prison, because it's like, I'm only okay if everyone around me is quiet, on time, polite, respectful, everything's clean and organ. Like, then you're in this tiny little box that, oh God, anything could set you off. And with ayahuasca, she's made my comfort zone, like, really expanded and forced me to my edges over and over again, so that my edges actually become wider and wider and wider. And now I don't feel afraid of most things. Like, she's made me confront my fear of death, which I no longer feel like I'm afraid of that. Like, I don't really want to die. And I don't want to die in a painful way, but it's like, I truly think of death as this, like, beautiful thing that's going to inevitably happen. And I think about death all the time now as an important part of, like, my life. And making my life richer. And so many things like that. Like, the people-pleasing thing, I just had to really confront that and be like, why am I living my life for other people? I don't even know who the fuck I am. And confronting my fear of so many things. I think that's my favorite part about ayahuasca. Is I was fucking afraid of the dark. I was afraid of death. I was afraid of spiders. I was like,
funny that Ben worked in the jungle.
Then I was in the jungle, in the dark.
I
had to confront. I literally just had to get over those fears. It's like, I just had to not be afraid of the dark anymore, because I worked in the dark. I had to not be afraid of spiders because they were constantly around me, and other deeper things. But I think those things that seem small actually become building up yourself into realizing, like, that you are a strong person, that you are resilient, that you are brave, that you're capable. Like, that's in all of us. And because of our society, we haven't been forced into these hard situations. So for me, like, I think that's what it's been best for, is even though it's not comfortable and I can't say it's easy, it's really made me grow so fast as, like, a human being.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you. And what about you with Wachuma? What do you think are some of the biggest lessons or ways that you've grown the past? What has it been, 2 months now that you've been working pretty closely with Wachuma?
Yeah. What have I learned? Gosh, a lot.
So much.
I have it written down on my phone, like my takeaways to go home with.
Very organized.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't want to forget this stuff. I think a big thing is just kind of being able to, like, actually kind of feel my emotions, which is, like, I think a classic thing to say, but, like, when I first got to the casa and I first sat with Lou, like, I got really frustrated because I felt the nausea coming on, I felt the medicine coming on, and I, like, was just stuck. Like, I was really upset after the ayahuasca retreat, but I just couldn't get any of that out without speaking to him, and I think as we've gone on, like, early on, like, there was a lot of kind of, like, that type of purging, that was going on in the first few weeks. even since then, yeah, like I've just been able to sit and like not need that much help, you know. And I think what I learned is that like being able to sit with the medicine is being able to sit with yourself, you know. Like if you're really uncomfortable, if you're fighting it, like you're fighting something that's in you that's being amplified. And so the fact that, yeah, like I drank by myself for the first time this past week. And yeah, I've been able to go through ceremonies where I'm facilitating and helping other people and kind of like putting my stuff on the back burner a little bit. Yeah, it's just, I feel like I'm able to kind of feel through my emotions better and kind of just clear them, you know, because otherwise they're building up and like, you know, I either want to distract myself or, you know, consume something to make it go away, whether it's food or like, you know, coffee or something just to take my mind off of it. And now I can kind of just, you know, sit with it better, which I think is the core of everything, you know, because once you can do that, then you can, yeah, just become really kind of self-aware and able to manage your energy. And, you know, I think what I was doing before was like I would wake up, take Adderall, and then like maybe use some Zins, and like so I was like using things to force myself to work, and then like if I was going to go out with friends, maybe I'd have a few drinks, maybe I'd take a propanolol, which is like a beta blocker, which is like an anti-anxiety med. So it's just like always like just manipulating myself to like act correctly, you know. And so now I can kind of just, I don't know, just like go where my energy kind of wants to go, you know. And I think there's going to be some time where I have to get more serious and settle down and get a little more disciplined about like kind of building my life. But yeah, it's been really good to just like, yeah, just learn how to let things flow as they're meant to, because I'm very healthy. Like I have a lot of energy, you know. It's like I can do this. But yeah, it was like, and then the other interesting thing about that I kind of learned the other day in a ceremony, because I drank San Pedro and then I used mambe, which is like coca powder from the jungle. I believe it's like, but it's some stimulant. Like I think it's like based in either like coca or some sort of jungle coca. I'm not exactly sure, but I was really tired that day and I drank San Pedro and then I used mambe in the afternoon, and I started to feel like my mind racing, and because like my body was tired, like with a fatigued body or fatigued like soul or fatigued self, like you're not getting energy from that, but then you stimulate the mind. So it's just kind of like running wild, like not oriented in any way. So I think that's just what I was doing to myself. That's why I was so confused. That's why I was so susceptible to like just different ideas on social media about like how you're supposed to live, how you're not supposed to live, is because like my soul and my heart or my self was like so fatigued that I couldn't feel for it and feel for what it wanted. I was just like in this like storm of ideas, and my mind was trying to orient itself, but it really, yeah, because it should be rooted in the self, the soul, the heart, but it wasn't. And so now I've learned that, you know, that's what stimulants do. So be careful about your usage of them, and like make sure to rest, make sure to kind of refuel the energy of your heart and your soul and such.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are huge lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, first about feeling, I think that's a really massive one. Yeah. And when you said like when you're scared to kind of sit with the medicine, it's like you're scared to sit with yourself. I think that's bang on.
Yeah.
I think so many people get so afraid, and when they actually get into what they're afraid of, it's like some stuff that's already inside of them that they just are scared to feel. So just like showing yourself that you can feel these hard emotions, you can get through it is huge in itself. And also I think through your sitting with the medicine in that way and then sitting with it as this more facilitator role will help you in a lot of ways, but it's also helped you see, because like if all of us were just feeling our emotions all the time, it would be really messy too.
For sure.
Like that's not fun.
For sure.
Stace, the old owner at Dream Blade, used to talk about how he's like, yeah, you've probably met some people like that.
Yeah.
They're just like a blubbering mess.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not great either. So it's not about like never repressing your emotions, but it's about learning when it's okay to feel, and then when you can put those on the back burner and be like, I'm going to feel those later, and then actually making sure that you do set aside time or have a moment where you can process those emotions is also really important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's facilitating is good, because I was thinking about it one time as I was like cutting mangoes for people at the house, and I was like, this is life. Like facilitating is life, because your emotions are amplified, but there are times where you just have to get your shit done. and you have to like get the tea. It's easy. It's like not super complicated, but I'm like, this is a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
Like I'm experiencing quite strong emotions because I've drank a lot of San Pedro today, but I have to do these tasks. Like I have to, like cut up all this fruit, like get the bread ready, get the soup ready.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, this is good. This is good practice.
That is life. And also like, what was the other thing you said about feeling the emotions? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to add, which I think about a lot, kind of related to just the facilitator role. Like my old therapist, he wrote a book called Psychedelics and the Soul, and he was talking about there's like different myths associated with different parts of the psychedelic world, and I forget exactly how this one came up, but it was sort of about this idea of like the wounded healer. Mm. And there's this image that he kind of described that like really stuck with me, like a great like quote unquote healer like is someone who like walks with a limp, like they're still wounded, but like they're not going around bleeding all over everybody. Like they acknowledge that they have this wound, but they can manage it and they can still go around and help other people. So it's also, I think that's also a helpful idea for me, that you're never going to really be fully healed or perfect. Like that's, and so it's sort of like removes the need for like this perfectionism in this space. It's like, no, like you are a wounded healer. Like you need to be able to manage your wound. You need to know about your wound. But yeah, don't go around bleeding on everybody.
I like that.
He's like, yeah, they walk with a limp. They walk with a limp. Like I love that idea. Because I feel that. I don't think I'm ever going to be like perfect, but
no.
I can be helpful.
None of us will be perfect, but we can definitely be helpful. And I think it is really freaking important to know where your wounds are, so they're not just bleeding out all over everyone. And a lot of healers, I think, again, that's another reason I was triggered by this, like, shamans who don't know what they're doing idea, because you need to spend years doing this work to really uncover a lot of your own shadows and wounds. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a 3 ayahuasca ceremonies thing. If that's the path that you're going to take, you need to really be aware of, like, all of your shadows. And there's always going to be more to uncover. Like you said, we're never perfect, but I think also doing this work in a group setting with people around you that you trust is so important, because if you're just doing this alone, you can't see your shadows by yourself. Like, I've realized that too, is I have to have my friends point out stuff to me, because it's literally a blind spot. Like, it's blind to me. I can't see it. Other people can see it for me, and that's really important. And we'll always have blind spots that we need help from other people to point them out to us. And that's a tricky part, is to like be open to that and receptive to that, and not beating yourself up like, oh, I can't believe I'm still like this. It's just like giving yourself the grace of, I'm not perfect, I'm a human, so thank you for making that aware to me, whether it was from your friend or the plants or whatever, but like, thank you, and I'll do better. I'll have my eye on that one. But it's not like, oh, I know about that, so now I'm perfect. It's like, I know about that, so now I'll keep my eye on it for like the rest of my life.
For sure. Yeah, like the group stuff is so helpful, because there's been a lot of ceremonies that I've come out of, like that I'd go tell Ivan something, he's like, oh no, I don't know about that. In hindsight, he was right. Like, it was clearly like my mind that I thought was something from San Pedro, because it comes out like really judgmental and like harsh. He's like, dude, I don't think that's San Pedro. I think that's you. So it's just, it's definitely great to have the community accountability to help you like make sense of what you've experienced.
That is so helpful. Yeah. I think that's
like, dude, San Pedro's not that mean.
That's another helpful one. Another pet peeve of mine with the medicine is when people constantly say like, oh, the plants told me this, or I got a message about that, and not knowing where it comes from, or not even like questioning that. Did that come from my mind? Yeah. Because that's okay if it did, but you should know that it came from your mind. Like, I don't think plants or God or whoever will ever come in with like a harsh, judgmental, critical voice. Yeah. To me, that's not. Yeah. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah. So it's like, okay, that judgment is there, and maybe it's correct, but it's not coming from God. It's coming from me. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Important to know.
Just funny. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right.
That's good.
Because you come out and you can convince yourself of anything, sort of. You're like, yes. It's like you're so open.
So open. I think that's also a danger of plants. Definitely. If you don't have correct guidance, is people can get so fucking deep into a story. Like, they can make this whole story about what happened, and it's really their mind trying to put meaning to all of it. Yeah. And sometimes it's right, but a lot of the times it's not. Yeah. A lot of the times you're just like, okay, here is the actual information and the facts of the situation that happened, where it's like, I felt afraid, I had these sensations, then I saw this thing, And from that information, your brain makes this story, which may or may not be true.
Yeah. It's really tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Because I sometimes wonder about that, because I think I want to work in like integration in some way, like people coming out of retreats, and like, because I you know, like I want to be a therapist, but I love the plant medicine world and like want to be involved with you guys. So I'm like, yeah, if you just see crazy stuff in a ceremony, like how do I as an integration person help you make sense of that? Like, it could be so like nonsensical, you know, like oftentimes.
Yep. And I think we've had a lot of practice with this in the share circles after ayahuasca, but to me it feels like a mix of, it feels like dream analysis, where it's like, okay, as I don't know, I'm not an expert in dream analysis, but like if someone was, I would imagine that they would do some studies on the archetypes of like, okay, this symbol usually symbolizes this. But also, for me, I think it's mostly important to recognize that whatever came to that person is so specific to them. And there's no way that anyone else could know. So it's more about like the trust that that person has all the answers and giving them a space that's safe enough for them to like come to their own answers. So if, as an, I don't know, again, I'm not like certified integration coach, but for me, I think it's mostly about asking questions and asking the right questions so that it's helping them get to their own answer. Like, oh, when was the last, like, what did that make you think of? Or when was the first time you felt that feeling in your life? Or like, have you had dreams about this? I don't know. There's like so many questions you could ask that could get them to have this aha moment. Like, oh, yeah, that symbol does mean this in my life. Like, and who knows, sometimes like, just a weird random example from the last retreat. I don't know what it means, but this guy had a dream about this girl who was at a retreat with a crossbow. And he was like, do you have any idea what that could mean? And she's like, well, I'm a Sagittarius. So it could be about like something about my horoscope sign. And it's like, sometimes you need to like just ask questions or figure out, and that person will have an answer.
True. There's always some association.
But I don't think there's any black or white things. Like another example is when people talk about, for me, like butterflies or frogs, they're really big symbols of transformation because those animals kind of go through these phases, right? Where they like fully change form from a tadpole to a frog or from a caterpillar to a butterfly. But for someone else, a frog could mean protection or cleaning. Like, I don't know, it could mean something totally different. So it's also important for me not to be like, oh, you had a frog? That means transformation. They're like, that does not mean that for me.
I was attacked by a frog as a kid, actually. Like, not me. I'm just saying this person. Like, it's not transformation.
Actually, like deepest spirit. But a good example in my own personal life was actually about spiders, because I don't know if I told you the story of my first ayahuasca retreat. I just saw so many spiders in my visions. And I was telling them at Share Circle, and Stace was like, oh, do you know what that means? And I was like, well, just on a super basic level, it feels like it's about fear, because my whole life I've been like irrationally terrified of spiders. Like even ones that are like a pinhead big. And he's like, well, it could be that, or it could be about patience. And then he goes on to say, like, it's because spiders build their webs and they just sit in it and they just trust that their next meal is going to happen. So patience is related to trust. He's like, does that resonate with you? You know, do you struggle with that in your life? And I was like, 100%. I even got a fucking tattoo that says trust after that. And a spider tattoo, spider web, because I was like, I just need a reminder that sometimes it's okay to just build a web and just sit in it and just trust that something's going to come to me. But with that requires patience. With impatience, it kind of means you're not trusting.
True. Yeah, definitely.
You're wanting something to come faster because you're not trusting it's going to. You're like, I'm impatient. When is this coming? You're not sitting in this space of like, no, it's coming.
It'll come when it needs to. It'll come when it needs to.
Yep. So that's a good example of how he really helped me understand what that meant, and it resonated. But I think if he had said that and it didn't resonate at all, then it wasn't it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is.
And I'm sure as you work more with people, like with those images, then you kind of get a better, like, it could be this, you have maybe like 5 you can throw at them. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's about, archetypes too.
Yeah. And that's actually something I want to study, is like dream analysis stuff.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Carl Jung, and that's like kind of one of his big things.
Yes.
So that's actually that was probably the most helpful form of therapy that I've received, was dream work, actually.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you start that a while ago?
Maybe 2 years ago. It was the same therapist who sent me down here.
He sounds awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. I hope everyone meets him at some point. Like, I hope the paths cross.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
So what did that look like? You wrote down your dreams and he analyzed
Yeah, and then
them?
I just say it like from a first person point of view slowly, and then he just kind of like writes stuff down, and then sometimes if there's an image or a person involved, he kind of like asks for associations with that. But it's usually like, from what I can tell, yeah, it's just like looking at the different elements of the dream, looking at their relationship to each other, and then I guess there's this one part called like the lysis, which is like the crux or like the main part of the dream, and he had kind of a knack for identifying like what is like the core point, because usually like the characters or like the setting will maybe like illustrate what it's about, like the general topic,
Okay.
and then like the dynamics in the dream like tell you about the specifics of like what the problem is.
Whoa.
So and that's I haven't really studied it at all, but that's kind of what I've noticed. It's like, yeah, kind of usually the context and then the images and their relationship between the images, and then there's some core point, is in my understanding.
That is so cool. And I find so many parallels between dreaming and the plant medicine world.
Yeah.
I think if we really got in touch with our dreams, then we could get so many answers just like we get from a plant medicine ceremony.
Well, that's what he says, like, because, psychedelics aren't entirely legal in the States, or like maybe they're hard to get for people, or maybe they're, if you want to go to one of these centers that are legal now, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. He's like, the cheapest way to work with your unconscious is dreams. Like, just write them down, and like that's the best like bang for your buck to like really work on yourself, taking kind of your unconscious into consideration. Yeah.
That's really inspiring to me.
Yeah.
I've been dream journaling for a while. When I get out of that habit, I just stop remembering my dreams.
Yeah, totally.
But lately, I've been remembering a lot of them, and they can be like really long stories. Yeah. And I wake up I either wake up really confused and have to like sit and process it for a little bit, or sometimes I know exactly what it's about. I'm like, okay. But I think the ones where I have to sit and process, I thought about this tribe. I can't remember. I think they're in Africa, where I heard about this tribe who, like, it's an important part of their day where right after they wake up, they all sit in a circle and discuss their dreams.
Yeah.
They'll say their dreams, and then everyone in the circle get a chance to, like, give their feedback on what it means. And I was thinking about that because I'm like, my group of friends, we just naturally do that.
Right.
Like, we wake up, we come downstairs, how'd you sleep? And we, like, start talking about our dreams.
Yeah.
And when I don't have people to say my dreams to, it's harder for me to like understand what was going on.
Interesting.
I feel too wrapped up in it. Like my dreams get so emotional.
Yeah.
I can be really angry, or I'm crying a lot in my dreams, or I'm usually anger, frustration, all these things. And I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I dream a lot about, like last night I just dreamt about my childhood dance teacher.
Nice.
She comes up a lot, and I'm like, what is going on here? But I think for me, it's like you said, I try to get to like the major themes and the feelings that are happening,
right.
And not exactly like get caught up in the mechanics. But that would be so cool for you to get into too.
Yeah, I think that's because it's I really enjoy it. Like when friends text me like, "Hey, I had a dream," and they'll send it to me over text. I'm like, yes. Like I remember, like I'd be working my corporate job, and then I get a text like that, and be like, everything goes to the side. Like I have to get my notebook out and like help think about the dream. And I'm not like qualified, I don't know, but like it's somewhat intuitive to me, to think through those things and see patterns and stuff.
Well, that's a gift in itself.
Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, like there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been clicking for me down here, but that is one thing that comes, I think, pretty naturally, which is nice.
Oh, wow. Okay, maybe later, because I don't want to bore people with this, but I'll tell you about my dream, and you can help me analyze it. Because I'm so not intuitive with that kind of stuff, but I do have really intense dreams. But I think that's, if you love it and you're intuitively good at it, then like, hell yeah, that's totally the avenue for you.
Yeah.
Have you found that your dreams have gotten like any different since doing plant medicine?
I think I don't know if I haven't been really keeping track of them, to be honest. I should. But yeah, I don't have anything recent that really stands out.
I think mine have gotten intense. They usually get pretty intense when I'm doing plant medicines too, and sometimes it just feels like a continuation of a trip in my dream. And sometimes those worlds kind of...
Yeah, Ivan was having some of that last week.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was talking about it.
So, yeah, we were talking about the things you've learned. Oh, I just remembered another thing I was going to say about the things you learned, because I think it's really important, which is something I hear constantly: rest. Like, when people at home in the Western world, because I was totally doing this too, coffee, Vyvanse,
Yeah.
and then like later alcohol and weed and all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff. It's like and sometimes that's okay, but when we're constantly doing that and derailing our natural like regulation, then our bodies can just be screaming out to
Yeah.
us like, I need to rest.
Yeah.
And we're just ignoring it. We're like steamrolling it.
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck you, I'm going to stay
Yeah.
up. And I think you put it in such a good way that I haven't actually thought of that way before, where your mind is overly active and like the rest of you, your body, spirit, heart is just exhausted.
Mhm.
And that's almost never helpful.
No, because your mind is a tool, but it needs to be like rooted in like it needs to be working on something that's like aligned with you.
Yes.
But with that part of you being fatigued, it's just on its own, and it's like amoral. It's like I'll do fucking anything. Like I'll go any direction that I can be. I'm easily convinced, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of what I saw with the mom bag, because I could just feel it. I was like, I feel like so tired, but my mind is going a million miles an hour. I was like, this is what I've been doing to myself for years.
Yes.
You know?
And so many people too. And maybe that's why also you get more and more disconnected from what you want and what your body wants, is because you're not training. You're not trained to listen to it. You're trained to override it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of people come down to Peru, and whether I see it in just hanging out or in retreats, and all they do is sleep.
That's what I did the first week. I was like, I would sleep like 8 hours, 9 hours, then take 2 naps like in the jungle. Like I was like, I did not know. And that even happened when I came to PSAC, you know, for the second time I came down here. Like the first week I was just exhausted because I had gotten back on the train of, you know, the stimulants and such.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was talking to someone about it yesterday too. Like even on the days off, it's almost like my mind is like waiting for them. Like it's been trained to just want to go all the time. It just doesn't have the fuel of like the Adderall, but like it doesn't really know how to rest still. Even without the drugs, it's still like wired to want to go. That's sort of how I felt. It's like when I would miss a day, I'd still feel like really restless. I wouldn't, you know, actually feel like I could rest. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's just like the context of being at home and feeling like you have certain responsibilities. I'm not sure. But, yeah, it's a slippery slope for me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it is for most people. And I'm so curious. So what are the next steps for you? Like you're here for another month?
Yeah, I'm here for 1 more month, and then I'm going to go home. And I think I'm going to start a grad program in counseling probably in January. So maybe just find some work, kind of get my feet settled, and wherever that may be. I'm thinking of a few spots. But yeah, I mean, really, like I've learned down here that like how nice it is to have community and just to like sit around a fire. And, just spend time with people you like. And I think those people are everywhere. You just have to like seek them. So it's like I think about, you know, I like to run, like, oh, find some friends to run with, like find some friends to like have over for dinner. Maybe we could do mushrooms together. You know? But just take the things that I've learned that like are nice to have in your life from down here and like bring them back or try to build them wherever I go. Because it's not like I'm asking for anything crazy. Like everyone wants this. You know, like it's not like I'm like, oh, what a weirdo. He wants to have me over for dinner. Like, people want this. And like everyone's just like either doesn't think to ask for it or doesn't want to ask for it or whatever. But I'm pretty committed to, trying to build something like that, you know, when I go home. And then just, getting going with building my career, because I just know that it's going to be a little bit of a grind for a bit, but it's going to pay off and give me the flexibility that I'm, you know, and hopefully the income that I'm hoping for in the future. Yeah.
Ben always talks about the podcast, The Emerald. I don't know if you've listened to it.
Yeah, Lou and I listened to it once. Yeah.
Okay, there's one about, I think it's on clouds, but he talks about like the gathering and the dispersal, and he's like, that's just the phases in life. It's like sometimes you're going to be gathering information, and I feel like that's what I'm picturing you for the next couple of years. Like you're in the gathering phase, and then after that you'll be in the dispersal where you're like pouring out your information, everything you've learned to everyone. But we can't always be in both, and most of us want to be in both all the time.
Right.
And obviously you can be a little bit. It's like the yin and the yang symbol. There's a little bit in each, but to be like, okay, I'm in this gathering phase, and that's okay because there's going to be a dispersal phase again. Which I think helps me when I kind of have to keep my head down and just do the thing that I have to do.
Because that's part of it. Like you get so much from this, but it's like you have a responsibility, like to, you know, do in terms of like the things I've learned that I need to do. Like I have to do my part and do them. You know, like they're not going to just happen. So it's nice because I think I got like a little bit like afraid of working hard in a weird way because like I worked really hard, I think, get my jobs in my 20s. And like they didn't, I guess in some ways they paid off. Like I made a living and whatever. Yeah, like the working hard like made me really miserable, kind of.
Yeah.
So it kind of like made me just like not want to work as much anymore. But I'm realizing like I love to work. Like I want to work. I have a ton of energy, you know. And so yeah, I'm really really glad to have like a vision of what I want to do and like a team that I kind of feel like I have some responsibility to. Not that you guys are putting that on me, but I like to feel that way. And yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice. I'm really excited, honestly.
I'm so excited too, and I don't know if you're anything like me, but it's easier for me to have a goal when I'm kind of doing it for somebody else too.
100%.
So I think that's helpful because it's like if you're just doing it for yourself, it's like, oh, this is a slog.
Yeah,
I don't know. But if you're like, these people are like would really benefit from me doing this work, then it's like, here's this extra motivation.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Do it. And that's awesome. I think I'm so excited for you. Again, this might not be like the most exciting phase of your life. It might just be like head down, but at least you're working on stuff that is exciting to you.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying like doing some hard work, but also just remember, take some rest.
Yeah.
And you don't have to necessarily work super hard. I feel like that's another fallacy in the US. It's more about like working smart and working on things that you're actually like enjoying. And also making sure that you're taking rest because you don't have to like work so fucking hard to earn stuff. Like sometimes, yes, you have to put in the work, but it doesn't have to be such a grind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm super excited about that because the therapist I've worked with, like he's kind of described his career to me as like his bread and butter, like way of making a living is as a psychotherapist. But off of that, like because that's how he makes his living. He's been able to like write a book. He has a blog. He does mushroom retreats and teaches at like a psilocybin like facilitator training center. So it's like it's just a way to kind of get that kind of like bread and butter way to make a living, off of which hopefully I can kind of like be flexible to pursue whatever, you know.
That's awesome. Have you gone on any of his mushroom retreats?
No, he's only had one, but I definitely I've been in like men's groups with him and we've done a lot of we work together one-on-one.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I hope to. I hope we'll work together at some point.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know him, but just from how you talk about him, that sounds really freaking cool.
It was just him and Lou like are the first. It's so nice because like they're both in their like mid-late 30s, so it's just like the perfect guys to meet. I'm like they really good at what they do. They're just like a little bit further down the path than I am. So it's been so helpful to have those two to kind of teach me. Yeah,
that's so nice. I like that. I like that age too because, like you said, it's just a little farther down the road, but it's not too far.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I remember when I was trying to find a therapist like so long ago, and I was with like an older woman who's super sweet, such a sweet lady, but I could not relate to her at all. She just did not understand our generation, my problems, and I realized like, you don't. It is nice to also seek out wisdom from elders, but it's also really nice to seek out wisdom from people who are just a little bit your elder,
for sure,
but who still get it.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's a blessing that those guys have crossed your path, and like I said, kudos to you for listening, taking all the steps, and coming here. I'm seriously so proud of you, and I love seeing your progress.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll record another one of these in a bit, but I just think like it's so cool to see how much you've grown and how much you've listened to yourself, and the stuff that you've learned is simple but profound.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Britt. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Love you.
Love you too.
Love you guys. Stop recording.